Good morning and welcome to Face the Nation. We begin with the chaos in Virginia's government and the scandals that have rocked the top 3 Democrats in the Commonwealth: Governor Ralph Northam, Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax, and Attorney General Mark Herring. CBS This Morning co-host Gayle King has just returned from Richmond, Virginia, where she spoke to the governor in his only television interview.
I know this has been a very difficult week for you in the state of Virginia, so where would you like to begin?
Well, it has been a difficult week, and you know, if you look at Virginia's history, we're now at the 400-year anniversary. Just 90 miles from here, in 1619, the first indentured servants from Africa landed on our shores in Old Point Comfort, what we call now Fort Monroe. And while
also known as slavery.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahushai, Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahushai. Yahweh is the name who the world ignorantly calls God. Yahushai is his son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. First and foremost, I want to give all praise and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakah, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone who grew well and taught me this truth. And salutation to the Akim out there pushing this truth and sincerity throughout the 4 corners of the earth and risking their life to do so for Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai's sake. I'm Brother Samak from the GMS Miami camp. And yes, the reason why I brought out the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 68, all right, is because you have this devil here, this Edomite, Governor Ralph Northam, who tried to literally cover up the truth of what happened, all right, in the 1600s, all right, where he was saying, all right, on live national television that the first indentured servants came from Africa in 1619, all right, bringing up now because we're in 2019, the 400-year anniversary. Is that true? Is that the truth? That the people, okay, the Negroes that were taken from west coast of Africa, they were indentured servants? No, that is not true. All right, and the Judite woman had to literally cut him and said, "No, slavery. No, it was slavery." And he said, "Yes, it was slavery." But it goes to show you these devils how they try to change the narrative, okay, of their atrocities that they committed onto the children of Israel. All right. Now, I'm going to focus mainly on the Southern Kingdom. All right, the so-called Negroes, West Indies, Jamaicans, and Haitians. All right, who make up the Southern Kingdom, Judah, Benjamin, Levi. All right, just to cut. All right. You devils up, man, because you Edomites, man, you so-called white people, man, you try to run from your history. You try to change history, to change the narrative, try to change terminologies, all right, to fit your agenda, all right? And no, all right, the people that came, all right, the children of Israel that came from the west coast of Africa, that were not indentured servants. They came in here in hardcore bondage. So now let's get into your definition according to encyclopediavirginia.org of what does indentured servants in colonial Virginia mean, all right? And this Edomite governor, what the hell's his name again? Ralph Northam, he knows this, all right? That's why he had to retract his statement and say yes, when she said slavery. Indentured servants in colonial Virginia. Indentured servants were men and women who signed a contract, right? Signed a contract. And who is this contract catered to? All right, let's continue reading. Also known as indentured or a covenant by which they agreed to work for a certain number of years in exchange for transportation to Virginia. All right, there has not been any documentation that proved, all right, that the Negroes, okay, Judah, all right, signed a contract in the west coast of Africa, all right, to go onto ships to come into the Americas, all right? So you're wrong with you even making that statement, indentured servants, all right? This contract was for other Edomites, poor Edomites, all right, in Europe, All right? Goes to show you this fork-tongued devil, man, these Edomites, man. All they like to do is change things around, change the narrative, all right? Try to hide from their past. But you ain't going to hide from your past, all right? The prophets are out through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem El Shai, and we're going to expose you on everything you say. It goes on and says, it goes on and says, by which they agreed to work for a certain number of years in exchange for transportation to Virginia. And once they arrived, food, clothing, and shelter. Right. They were given good, okay, food, clothing, shelter. Not like, all right, the enslaved children of Israel, southern kingdom, that went on cargo slave ships, all right? They were given scraps. They were given, okay, neck bones. They were given slop, okay, torn clothing, and all right, and their shelter. They were living in the most atrocities living conditions, all right, terrible living conditions, right. While these Edomites were given good living conditions, okay. Adults usually served for 4 to 7 years, and children sometimes for much longer, with most working in the colonial tobacco fields. With a long history in England, indentured servitude became, during most of the 17th century, the primary means by which Virginia planters filled their nearly inexhaustible need for labor. Right. They had their own Edomites, all right, working in the tobacco fields, all right, as well as slaves, okay. At first, the Virginia Company of London paid to transport servants across the Atlantic, but with the institution of the headright system in 1618, the company enticed planters and merchants to incur the costs with promise of land. Right. Who was given this promise of land? Edomites, not Southern Kingdom. As a result, servants flooded into the colony, where they were greeted by deadly diseases and often harsh conditions that killed the majority of newcomers and left the rest to a mercy of sometimes cruel masters. All right. And they weren't living a cruel lifestyle like, okay, the so-called Negroes were living. The General Assembly passed laws regulating contract terms, as well as the behavior and treatment of servants. Besides benefiting masters with long indentures, these laws limited servants' rights while still allowing servants to present any complaints in court. Jake didn't have that opportunity, all right? They were treated with severe and harsh oppression. By the end of the 17th century, the number of new servants in Virginia had dwindled, and the colony's labor needs were largely met by enslaved Africans, right? Meaning there was an uptick. There was a growth in bringing more in Judah, Benjamin Levi onto the slave ships to bring them over here to the Americas, okay? From the west coast of Africa. So now, let's get to the book of Psalms, just to show you, man, that this Edomite, man, this governor was just a damn liar. All right, this proves that you can't trust this devil, man. Let me go to the book of Psalms, chapter 10. I'll just start at 1, verse 2. The wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. Yes, Psalms chapter 10, verse 2. The wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. Let them be taken devices that they have imagined. Verse 3. For the wicked boasteth of his heart's desire, and blesseth the covetous whom the Lord abhorreth. The wicked through the pride of his countenance will not seek after the Most High. The Most High is not in all his thoughts. Right. And that's how these devils operate, man. They don't think they're going to pay for what they've done. That's why they're trying, okay, so hard to change history around, okay, now, saying indentured servants. His ways are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffed at them, right? He's been doing that to us since he put us, okay, into hardcore bondage, man. Verse 7, let me get to the point. His mouth is full of cursing, deceit, and fraud. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity, right? That's this devil right here. Governor Ralph Northam, this Edomite, okay? Who had to be corrected on national television, like, no, it was slavery. Okay, they weren't indentured servants. Now, let's prove this. This is from the Smithsonian all right? And the Smithsonian is funded and ran by the United States federal government, okay? And the Smithsonian could be equivalent to the ancient library of Alexandria during the time of the Greek Empire, all right? Because the Smithsonian gathers artifacts, okay, history on everything, all right, that has happened on Earth. So listen to what they wrote. The misguided focus on 1619 as the beginning of slavery in the U.S. damages our understanding of American history, right? Because you have certain historians, certain colleges and universities say, oh, slavery started in 1619 among the so-called Negroes, which is a lie. Totally disregarding the 1500s, okay? As well as the late 1400s, okay? Christopher Columbus. The year the first enslaved Africans were brought to Jamestown is drilled into students' memories, but overemphasizing the date distorts history, right? In 1619, quote, 20 and odd Negroes, end quote, quote. And notice how they put double quotations to say this is, okay, pretty much a fib, distorted, okay, because it wasn't no 20 and odd Negroes, it was more than that, arrived off the coast of Virginia where they were bought for victual, all right, meaning purchased by who? By labor-hungry English colonists, right? So this is what was going on in 1619, not indentured servants, you liar. And this is from Smithsonian, and he's the governor of Virginia, so he knows about the Smithsonian, all right? That's why he had to get corrected, all right, because he looked stupid, all right? But he was just being a devil, trying to slide, all right, lies, all right, trying to make himself look good. Mr. I want to paint my face black during his college years. The story of these captive Africans has set the stage for countless scholars and teachers interested in telling the story of slavery in English North America. Unfortunately, 1619 is not the best place to begin a meaningful inquiry into the history of African peoples in America. Certainly, there's a story to be told that begins in 1619, but is neither well suited to help us understand slavery as an institution, nor to help us better grasp the complicated place of African peoples in the early modern Atlantic world. For too long, the focus on 1619 has led the general public and scholars alike to ignore more important issues and, worse, to silently accept unquestioned assumptions that continue to impact us in remarkably consequential ways. As a historical signifier, 1619 may be more insidious than instructive, right? Because slavery was going on prior to 1619, okay? And this article is going to get into it. This is from the Smithsonian, by the way. The overstated significance of 1619, still a common fixture in American history's curriculum, begins with the questions most of us reflectively ask when we consider the first documented arrival of a handful of people from Africa in a place that will one day become the United States of America. First, what was the status of the newly arrived African men and women? Were they slaves, servants, something else? And second, as Winthrop Jordan wondered in the preface to his 1968 classic White Over Black, what did the white inhabitants of Virginia think when these dark-skinned people were rowed ashore and traded for provisions? Were they shocked? Were they frightened? Did they notice these people were black? If so, did they care? No, you Edomites didn't care. You only cared about your ambitions, your agenda during that time period. All right? You said, all right, I'm an indentured servant. I signed a contract. Okay, I'm going to work these fields, all right, for a certain particular year. And then after that, I'm going to be given land, all right, and then have my own slaves and that I'm going to purchase from the west coast of Africa, all right? That's what you were thinking of, all right? You didn't care about, all right, the so-called Negroes, all right, which are the tribe of Judah, all right, or in the Caribbeans, all right, because the transatlantic slavery, all right, it was spearheaded in the Caribbeans, 1492, Christopher Columbus. You didn't give a damn, okay? So you didn't care. In truth, these questions fail to approach the subject of Africans in America in a historically responsible way. None of these queries conceived of the newly arrived Africans as actors in their own right. These questions also assume that the arrival of these people was an exceptional historical moment, and they reflect the worries and concerns of the world we inhabit rather than shedding useful light on the unique challenges of life in the early 17th century. There are important historical correctives to the misplaced marker of 1619 that can help us ask better questions about the past. Most obviously, 1619 was not the first time Africans could be found in an English Atlantic colony. And it certainly wasn't the first time people of African descent made their mark and imposed their will on the land that would someday be part of the United States. As early as May 1616, blacks from the West Indies were already at work in Bermuda, providing expert knowledge about the cultivation of tobacco. There's also suggested evidence that scores of Africans plundered from the Spanish, were abroad a fleet under the command of Sir Francis Drake when he arrived at Roanoke Island in 1586. In 1526, enslaved Africans were part of a Spanish expedition to establish an outpost on North American coast in present-day South Carolina. Right. So, you have this notion where this Edomite is talking about this is the time where the first indentured service from Africa came to our land. That's a lie. You have plenty of, Jake, who are not Africans, they're Israelites, coming over to the Americas prior to 1619. Right? This is from the Smithsonian, by the way. These Africans, these Jakes, launched a rebellion in November that year and effectively destroyed the Spanish settlers' ability to sustain the settlement, which they abandoned a year later. Nearly 100 years before Jamestown, African actors enabled American colonies to survive, and they are equally able to destroy European colonial ventures. Right. Okay, so it proves Jake was over here in the Americas prior to 1619. These stories highlight additional problems with exaggerating the importance of 1619. Privileging that date and the Chesapeake region effectively erases the memory of many more African peoples than it memorializes. The from this point forward and in this place narrative arc silences in the memory of the more than 500,000 African men, women, and children who had already crossed the Atlantic against their will. Against their will. Let's go back to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 68. All right, because, that's talking about the transatlantic slave trade. Deuteronomy 28, verse 68, and the Lord shall bring thee to Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for a bondman and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. You see that? Okay? This is coming from the Smithsonian. Narratives arc silences the memories of the more than 500,000 African men, women, and children who had already crossed the Atlantic against their will, aided and abetted Europeans in their endeavors, provided expertise and guidance in a range of enterprises, right? And that also proves, that they're the children of Israel, all right? Because they had, our people had extreme wisdom and knowledge of the geography of the world, all right? They knew there was land over here in the New World, okay? They knew about the herbs, the resources, that was over here in the New World, all right? And these Edomites needed, Jake to search it out. Suffered, died, and most importantly, endured. That Sir John Hawkins was behind 4 slave trading expeditions during the 1560s suggests the degree to which England may have been more invested in American slavery than we typically recall. You see that? So all you Edomites had a hand in slavery prior to the 1619. So they were not, once again, indentured servants. Tens of thousands of English men and women had meaningful contact with African peoples throughout the Atlantic world before Jamestown. In this light, the events of 1619 were a bit more yawn-inducing than we typically allowed. Telling the story of 1619 as an English story also ignores entirely transnational nature of the early modern Atlantic world and the way competing European powers collectively facilitated racial slavery, even as they disagreed about and fought over almost everything. From the early 1500s forward, the Portuguese, Spanish, English, French, Dutch, and others fought to control the resources of the emerging transatlantic world and worked together to facilitate the dislocation of the indigenous peoples of Africa and the Americas. Wow. So all you Edomites had a hand, all right, in our demise. All you European nations, okay, benefited off of us in slavery. So let's go to the book of Deuteronomy, because the Lord said this was going to happen to us, that we were going, okay, into bondage. This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 64. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from one end of the earth, even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. That's right. That's why we had Christianity forced upon us. We had, that Muslim, the Arab slave trade, okay, because the Smithsonian forgot about that one, but this is more specifically talking about the Americas, okay, worshiping all these other gods, wood and stone, all right? Verse 65, and among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shall the soul of thy food have rest, but the Lord shall give thee their trembling heart and a failing eyes and sorrow of mind. Right. And we haven't caught a break, all right, since slavery. Okay. So all you Edomites had a hand in our demise. No, we were not indentured servants. No, the so-called Negroes, West Indies, Jamaicans, Haitians were not indentured servants. Okay. They were put into cargo slave ships. Okay. Slavery. All right. And if you want to get technical, because we here at Great Millstone, we do get technical with the history. Yeah, there was very few, Jake, that were indentured servants. All right. And that was only set up to cause division among our people. But guess what? Once Virginia started putting in slave laws, all right, all those contracts were taken away and they went right into slavery. Okay, Virginia and all these other states. Let's get to the scripture right here. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 48. Therefore, thou shalt serve thy enemies, the Lord shall send against thee in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want all things, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. Right. That's talking about slavery. Verse 49, the Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. Right. And notice, all right, all the nations that were mentioned here, they all use the eagle to represent their country, proving that you are the Edomites, all right? Because doesn't the scripture say in the book of Malachi? Let's get it, all right? No, excuse me, Obadiah. Book of Obadiah. Let's read Obadiah chapter 1, verse 1. The vision of Obadiah, thus saith the Lord concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from the Lord, an ambassador said among the heathen, arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. Right. And this is talking about your allies, all right? You Edomites, all right? They're going to turn against you in these last days, all right? Even you, among you Edomites, you're going to be fighting amongst each other, all right? Because you're divided, all right? Let's get to the point, though, verse 4. Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord. Right. And Since you've been doing your space exploration, the Lord's been bringing your empire down. That's why, all right, you look at the condition all you Edomites are living in. Look at your countries, all right? They're all in turmoil. There's always rioting. There's always upwars of the people. You're in so much debt. I mean, all right, because you served your purpose, man. And now the Lord is bringing you down. But the point is, though thou exalt thyself as the eagle. So that's talking about you Edomites, okay? Can't get around it. Let's continue on. Deuteronomy. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28 just to hammer home slavery, all right? Because, you know, this whole notion of indentured servants, that was you being the devil. This is why you're the devil. Deuteronomy 28 verse 14, thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. Right, slavery. All right, so you're wrong, Mr. Governor Ralph Northam. There was no indentured servants in 1619. All right, it was slavery. Okay, the Smithsonian, okay, literally documented it. All right. Look what else it says here. It says, as historian John Thornton has shown us, the African men and women who appeared almost as if by chance in Virginia in 1619 were there because of chain of events involving Portugal, Spain, the Netherlands, and England. Virginia was part of the story, but it was a blip on the radar screen. Exactly. It was bigger than that, man. All right? You took a whole nation of people and put them in slavery. Let's go to the book of Joel, chapter 3, right? This cuts this narrative that, oh, but what about your own people? First of all, the ones that were enslaving, capturing Jake from Africa, those were Hamites. Those are not our people. Joel chapter 3, verse 1. I'll start at 1. For behold, in those days, in that time, when thou shalt bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, verse 2, I will also gather all nations, will bring them into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among nations and part of my land. Right. So the reason why all you nations of the Middle East, all right, is because what you've done to us, all right, since the us going into slavery under you, all right, and so you have to pay for that because what you've done during slavery and after that, all the atrocities and crimes you committed upon the children of Israel, the so-called Northern Southern Kingdom, because it did say, according to the Smithsonian, it said to, once again, from the early 1500s forward, the Portuguese, Spanish, English, French, Dutch, and others fought to control the resources of the emerging transatlantic world and worked together to facilitate dislocation of the indigenous peoples of Africa and Americas, right? And who was living over here in Americas prior to you devils coming over here? The Northern Kingdom, the so-called Hispanics and Native Americans, okay? See, this Bible is our book, all right? Verse 3, and they have cast lots for my people, meaning slavery, and have given a boy for a harlot, right? You sold us on the auction blocks, all right? 500, okay? In fact, 500, 500 in gold, silver, Wall Street. The beginning of Wall Street was the inception of Wall Street. The first stocks was, okay, the slaves, the so-called Negroes, all right, the tribe of Judah, all right, and they have cast lots of my people and have given a boy for a harlot and sold a girl for wine that they might drink. Verse 4, yea, what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon? Right, let's talk about the Hamites and all the coasts of Palestine. Will you render me a recompense? And if you recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head? Right. That's why you Hamites in Africa, you're catching all that hell because you're getting judged for what you've done to us. All right. That's why you're in the poverty and you see your children ribs and you're starving. Okay. Because the Lord is judging you. Verse 5, because ye have taken my silver and my gold and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things. Verse 6, the children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians. that ye might remove them far from their border. Right? Who are the Grecians? You Edomites. Okay, so this is talking about slavery. This is talking about the transatlantic slavery. All right, can't get around it. Last scripture and we'll close out. All right, this is how you know we're the children of Israel. Chapter 9, verse 12. And he hath confirmed his words, which he spake against us and against our judges that judge us, by bringing upon us a great evil. Right, that was a great evil the Lord brought upon us because we broke the law, statutes, commandments. Sending our enemies, okay, against us and putting us into hardcore bondage. All right, that was a great evil, but we had to go through it because we broke the law, statutes, commandments, and that was our punishment. For under the whole heaven have not been done as had been done upon Jerusalem. Right, this has never been done to any other nation. So I don't want to hear from you Edomites. Everybody went to slavery at one point. Excuse me? Not. It can't even go near and close to what happened to our people, all right? The transatlantic slave trade, all right, was the most horrific act in world history. And to turn a blind eye to it and try to downplay it like this devil did, all right, is the reason why you got to get judged, America. That's why you Edomites are going to get put down, man. And we can't wait till the World War III starts, all right? Because clowns like Governor Ralph Northam, they got to get their mouth punched in, all right? And in World War III, he's gonna be scared. And he's going to run into those bunkers and he's going to, okay, be judged. Because if you got a bunker here in America, you ain't making it out, Mr. Governor Ralph Northam, all right? Because America's going to be judged with fire. So Lord willing, I was edified. Hey, once again, this is just showing what these devils do. They're being exposed, okay? And, this is why you're the devil, okay? And once again, no, we were not indentured servants. We were slaves, okay? And we had to endure hardcore bondage, all right, like the scripture says we would do because we broke the law, statutes, and commandments. And with that, I want to give all praise and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rukah, Kodash. Double honors to the apostle, great millstone, who grew well and taught us this truth. And salutation to the Akim out there pushing this truth to sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth, risking their life to do so for Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai's sake. Love you, brothers. Keep enduring. Keep the faith. And Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. With that, shalom.